The Mini Cooper S enters its 5th generation for the 2025 model year, and like many other new cars, it too has gone bigger and heavier than before. So does that mean that it lost its traditional go-kart driving dynamics? Let's go for a drive and find out. So as I said at the start of this video, this new Mini Cooper S is heavier than the previous generation, roughly by about 90 kilograms, which is about 200 pounds. Thankfully though, it does have more power to counteract the extra weight. The 3-cylinder engine of the old standard Mini Cooper is gone, and in its place is a turbocharged 4-cylinder, and that's the only engine that is available for both the Mini Cooper C and this Mini Cooper S. In the Cooper C, it develops a little over 160 horsepower, whereas in this 2025 Cooper S, it develops 201 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. That enables this Cooper S to accelerate from a stop to 100 kilometers an hour in about 6.5 seconds. That is if you can control the wheel spin off the front wheels, because this car does not come with a limited slip differential. And in greasy weather like how it is right now, it can be a little bit tricky to put all that power down. However, in dry conditions, when you can put all the power down to the road, this car still is very peppy. The engine has torque pretty much everywhere in the RPM range, except for obviously right down at say 1000 RPMs, but I've never felt like as though I was wanting more while driving this car. The amount of power that this engine delivers is manageable, especially since it doesn't have a limited slip differential. Paired with the engine in this Cooper S, as well as the standard Cooper C, is a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. For the time being, this is the only transmission that's available on the 2025 Cooper. But while you can't roll your own gears, the tuning of this transmission is actually pretty good. In everyday driving, of course, it keeps the RPMs as low as possible to improve the fuel economy, but it does wake up quickly enough whenever you put your foot down and demand a burst of acceleration. Switch your car into go-kart mode and it'll stay in one lower gear to ensure that the engine is right in the torque band. Plus, you can also choose L on the gear selector, and then it'll bring up the engine's RPMs pretty much right up to the red line. It'll also downshift more ferociously in this L mode as well. It's basically like a sport mode for the transmission. However, one thing that you can't do with this transmission is select the gears yourself, because this Cooper S does not have paddle shifters. Most likely though, on the JCW version, there will be paddle shifters. The fuel economy of this new 2025 Mini Cooper S remains virtually unchanged over the previous model year. It is rated for 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers in a city and 6.1 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway. That is the same city fuel economy as before, but just slightly better highway fuel economy by 0.1 liters per 100 kilometers. Perhaps the most noticeable change to this 2025 Cooper S is the refined demeanor in which it drives through corners. The car always felt planted no matter what type of road it drove over. The front end reacted quickly to steering inputs while the rear end followed it without any drama. As I mentioned earlier though, at times it was difficult to put the power down when exiting a corner because of the wet and slippery roads that I encountered during my week-long drive with the Cooper S. Traction control did have to intervene when I got a bit overzealous with my right foot. The extra heft of this 2025 Cooper S didn't detract from the overall enjoyment of driving the car on winding roads. Additionally, this new Mini is wider than the outgoing model, which aids in that planted feeling through the twisties. Overall, the 2025 Mini Cooper S retains the go-kart driving dynamics which it is known for. The wheelbase of this new Mini Cooper remains unchanged over the previous model year. It is short, which does tend to induce a rougher ride than some other sporty compact cars. Having said that, the ride is firm feeling, but not overly rough. You can feel every bump, every pebble, every change in the asphalt, but the ride is not jarring. The 2025 Cooper S is also available with adaptive suspension, but this demo car did not have this feature added onto it. As for noises, the car produces a nice engine note throughout the cabin when it is in go-kart mode. However, some of this noise is enhanced through the speakers, as the engine noise is not that audible from the outside. Road noise from the tires is noticeable on highways, but you don't need to raise your voice too much to have a conversation with the person sitting next to you. Inside the 2025 Mini Cooper S, space remains pretty similar to the previous generation. So for somebody as tall as me at 6'4", here in the front seats, it's not an issue whatsoever. There's plenty of legroom and there's just enough headroom. But keep in mind that I always like to lower the driver's seat to its lowest position, so that's why it seems like I have so much headroom. In the back seats, however, it's identical to the previous generation, which means not a whole lot of space, particularly for somebody as tall as me sitting behind somebody that's equally just as tall. Now, if it was somebody that's a little bit more average in height, say 5'10", sitting behind somebody that's equal in that height, then it would be just fine, I think. Further behind the seats, this 2025 Cooper S does have a little bit more space than the previous generation at 252 liters of cargo space. There is a small storage compartment underneath the trunk floor that will fit a small backpack, and if you fold down the rear seats 60-40, then they will reveal 974 liters of cargo space. Back here in the front, obviously the design is very different compared to the previous generation, with the biggest eye-catching change is the new 9.4-inch digital touchscreen. It's no longer just a circular design element with a rectangular infotainment touchscreen in the center of it. Now it is a full digital touchscreen. The infotainment system itself is pretty easy to navigate around. It's not really that customizable per se. However, you can choose your favorite apps and most commonly used functions and then have them on your favorites menu for quick and easy access. This infotainment system also allows for wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, and I would love to show you wireless Android Auto right now, but unfortunately, my Android smartphone did not want to connect wireless Android Auto to this infotainment system. It seems like it only wants to connect via Bluetooth. So I don't know why that is. Maybe there's a over-the-air update in the future that will fix this, but for the time being, I couldn't connect my smartphone to this infotainment system. As for the rest of this interior design, it is very minimalist and pretty straightforward. The steering wheel is essentially a two-spoke steering wheel because the very bottom spoke is just a piece of fabric. Sadly, Mini has taken away the analog tachometer that used to be right in front of the driver. However, you do get a head-up display. Now, normally I'm not a fan of these type of head-up displays. I much prefer the ones that are projected onto the windshield, but this one I think works a little bit better, and that's because the piece of plastic or glass that it's being projected on is tinted, whereas in other cars it is not tinted. So in other vehicles, when I look at this type of head-up display, there's not really that much contrast between what is being displayed and the hood that you can see right past it. But because this one is tinted, there is more contrast between what is being displayed and the hood that is right behind it. Additionally, on the dashboard, you do get ambient lighting, but it's projected onto the dashboard and it's not illuminated from underneath. Underneath the touchscreen, you do get a few toggle switches for turning on the engine or changing the drive modes, and you do get a physical volume knob. But what you don't get is physical climate controls. They are now integrated into the touchscreen. I'm not a fan of that. I much prefer physical controls for the climate. As for the materials in this Mini Cooper, they feel pretty nice. Of course, there is some scratchy plastics, but for the most part, the materials feel nice. There's no squeaks or rattles, and it's a pretty pleasant place to be in. And that's about it for the interior of the 2025 Mini Cooper S. The 2025 Mini Cooper C starts at just under $35,000 Canadian, while this Cooper S starts at just under $40,000 Canadian. There are optional packages and standalone features that can be added, which this demo car had, but it wasn't quite fully loaded. Even so, it had an as-tested price of $46,590 Canadian. The exterior styling of the new Cooper retains the Mini design that we've all grown accustomed to, but it has been simplified for this new generation. It has fewer vents in the bumper, a smooth side profile, and no more hood scoop. The circular headlights remain with round or horizontal LED daytime running lights. In the back, the Union Jack taillights remain, but they've been given a Cyberpunk 2077 look. You can also choose to change the design of said taillights when the car is parked with the side markers turned on. This is a cool feature for us videographers. One item that should not have been removed is the central exhaust pipe. It is now to the left side and hidden underneath the bumper. So although the 2025 Mini Cooper S has gained weight and has gotten bigger than the previous generation, it still is a pretty fun car to drive. Is it a perfect Mini Cooper now? No. There are still a few things that I would like to see brought back from the previous generation Mini Cooper onto this one, such as a manual transmission, paddle shifters, and a tachometer in front of the driver, or at the very least a projection of a proper tachometer on the head-up display. But overall, the 2025 Mini Cooper S feels much more refined, it still is spacious, and it hasn't really lost its go-kart driving dynamics. It's a pretty fun little sports car. If you'd like to know more about this 2025 Mini Cooper S, I have a more detailed written review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck, or most likely it'll be an SUV next time. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you in the next one.